Hello?
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
we can hear you. We got 2
Okay,
minutes,
this is
Mr.
John.
Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, it's 10 o'clock.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Mr. Chairman, it's 10 o'clock. We're ready to go.
Okay. All right, then I will call this virtual meeting of the South Carolina Public Charter School District. Today is June 22nd, 2023. I will lead the invocation. Father, as staff and the Board of Trustees, we thank you for the privilege of serving as students and taxpayers of South Carolina. Proverbs tells us there's precious treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man swallows it up. Help us to be ever mindful of our fiduciary obligations and to be wise in the administration of our duties. Amen. I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll read the mission statement. The South Carolina Public Charter School District authorizes, champions, and supports the creation and advancement of innovative K-12 public charter schools that provide access to academic opportunities for every student in South Carolina to reach their fullest potential. Mr. Secretary, would you take the roll?
Good morning. Mr. Butcher.
here.
Mr. Butcher is present. Mr. Gilchrist.
Here.
Mr. Gilchrist is present. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Miller is present. Mrs. Mosteller. Mrs. Mosteller is not present. Mr. Payne.
Here.
Mr. Payne is present. Dr. Pope. I thought I saw Dr. Pope. Dr. Pope is present. Okay. Dr. Strickland.
Here.
Dr. Strickland is present. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, item 6, the consent agenda. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda for today, June 22nd, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. Need approval of the minutes from the June 8th, 2023 meeting.
So
Need a
moved.
motion.
Randy makes a motion.
Kip makes a second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. Are there any public comments?
And I've not been notified of any public comments.
All right, thank you, Marlene. We are not in the need of an executive session, so we'll move on to action items. First item up is the Copper Dome contract. Chris?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. It's good to be with all of you. So one of the things that we've continued to hear through the years from our schools is the weight and cost of regulations that come down from the state of South Carolina, the Department of Education, and how those regulations impact their finances, their budgets, and their ability to, quite frankly, comply with the Charter Act in terms of the autonomy that they're given in the classroom and at the school level. Our district for the past year has been working on a strategic plan related to regulatory reform in the education space to do just that, relieve the burden that has been placed on our schools, let them operate more autonomously so they can innovate and be creative and do the things they need to do without the extra cost of regulation. So in that respect, we'd like to continue with a contract with Copper Dome Strategies in Columbia, who specialize in regulatory reform, and work with them, the Department of Education, the General Assembly, to begin to examine all regulations related to education in schools, and see where we can begin to, get rid of regulations. Maybe there's regulations and we know that need to be updated, and that need to be more relevant to the changing educational space that we operate in the school choice environment. So with that, this would be a $4,000 a month contract with an outside vendor, Copper Dome Strategies, again, a subsidiary of Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd, well-respected law firm here in the state of South Carolina, who would strategically work with us to get rid of regulations and reform regulations that are impacting our charter schools here in South Carolina. Mr. Chairman, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Before we move forward, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve.
Second.
All right,
I'm
we've
not
got a
able to hear
motion and a
anything.
second.
Who did the second?
Billy Strickland.
Thank you.
Did somebody say they didn't hear anything? Is that Dr. Pope?
Yeah, I heard Dr. Pope say she didn't hear anything. I'm going to try to send her a message and see if she can get her speakers working.
Okay, do we need to wait? I think we should wait for a moment.
Yes.
I want her. I'd like for all the board members to be informed.
Mr. Chair, while you're waiting, I do have a question. So when Dr. Pope is up and can hear.
Okay.
Dr. Pope, are you able to hear us now? Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Chris, would you go over what you mentioned a moment ago for Dr. Pope's benefit.
And Chris, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dr. Pope and members of the board, what we're offering here is a continuation of a contract with Copperdome Strategies, which is a subsidiary of Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd here in South Carolina, to work with us on regulatory reform. As you all know, in the Charter Act, there's a section in 59-40-50, Section A, where it talks about charter schools being exempt from all provisions of law and regulations applicable to public schools. Unfortunately, over the course of the last 26 years, there's been a lot of regulations created at the Department of Education level, many of which are not applicable to charter schools, but charter schools have been lumped in. As a result of that, because of the razor-thin margins that many of our schools operate, these regulations cost our schools a lot of money, a lot of time, and compliance. It also impacts the district because we get lumped in with a lot of these regulations as well. So we're going to be very strategic. This is a support opportunity for us to support our schools, to reduce the weight of regulations that are not applicable to charter schools. And so this would be an effort for us to collaborate with the Department of Education, the General Assembly, and the governor to look at all regulations in statute, both in the public education section, but also the charter school section of the law, where we can start to provide relief. So we will do a complete audit of all regulations, statutory and policies that have a negative impact on schools, and offer reforms, maybe even elimination of many of these regulations. So we need someone who has an expertise in this area to assist us to do the audit and to identify and offer reforms, so that this can be a collaborative effort with our Department of Education, our charter schools, and the state of South Carolina. So we would like to engage with them on this project going forward. Does anybody have any? Mr. Chairman, that's it.
Okay. Dr. Pope, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, Jonathan, you had a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, what are the deliverables, and is there an end date? So is their deliverable a report from them, or is the deliverable something that's not tangible and it's just guidance? And then what is the end date for when you feel like you won't, need their services anymore?
Well, as with all things government, I don't know that there will be an end date. I mean, I don't think this is an effort where we can say that, we're going to get all the regulatory reform we want in the first 12 months of this initiative. I think the first deliverable is an audit of South Carolina law as it relates to public education and charter schools, and also the Department of Education and their regulations to look at those things that are maybe outdated, no longer necessary, or maybe are negatively impacting our schools. So the first deliverable would be that audit. The second piece would then be a strategic plan related to the reform and elimination of negative regulations and policies. And then there would be, if it's statutory, there would be things that would need to be done through the government relations space, to get the General Assembly to take action. There would be collaboration with the Department of Education on regs and policies. So this is something that is going to take, several years, I believe, quite frankly, for us to be successful. And again, I believe this is an investment we're making on behalf of our schools, so that we can help them further reduce their cost of compliance. While at the same time, I think this benefits all public schools, because we're being seen as someone who is advocating for positive change that can impact all of our schools across the state, not just charter schools. So this is a very positive, collaborative effort. We've already had discussions with the Department of Ed about regulatory reform. We know they're receptive to that. And so we have some willing partners in the government that are willing to work with us.
Jonathan, do you have any follow-up?
No, that's good. Yeah, I think, Chris, if you can just keep us posted on what, what sort of things that they are, advising you to, and just so that we have an eye on what, what we are getting back from a commitment like that.
Absolutely. So we'll commit to you that we will give you reports and updates on the progress on the audit. And then the second phase obviously would be the recommendations. And then the third phase would be the strategic and tactical piece where we will start to take action to start making change. So we will keep the board updated as we make progress on all those fronts.
Chairman Payne, Billy Strickland, if I could add a comment to Chris's comment.
Yes, sir.
I do think is that both public schools and certainly charter schools could benefit of looking at that situation, because as Dr. Pope would agree with me, we have been discussing laws that were developed. That code of laws spans more than 50 years written, and some of those entire things are not relevant. Right. But I think under the leadership of Superintendent Weaver, and who understands the political process, and people have told her about this, and with the governor's office and the legislature, all, we're looking to do things to help this. I think this is an ideal time for everyone to look at the code of laws, how things could be handled in a better way and make the entire system. So I think this would be a great, not only for charter schools, but a collaboration of everyone.
I agree.
Are there any more comments from any other board members? Jonathan, I'll just add one thing. Chris gave us the long-term version of why we need this and how we would move forward. But as far as this agreement goes, it's only for 12 months. It would begin on July 1st in a few weeks and would go through June 30th of next year.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. And I certainly agree that the issue of regulations is a major issue for charter schools. I have no hesitation there.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Having none, I'll call the motion. All in favor of accepting the Copperdome contract and staff recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. Next up is Midlands Art Conservatory Voluntary Charter Relinquishment. John R. Payne.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of our Board of Trustees. Today we bring before you an action item on the voluntary termination of Midlands Arts Conservatory's charter. As you may recall, back in February, MAC was looking for a facility. We gave them a conditional approval. On June 12th, the MAC board met and voted in a 4-0 vote to close the school this summer. As they shared in their press release, they had struggled significantly with a viable facility, as well as saw a decline in enrollment between the 45th and 135th, which impacted their ability, their funding ability. They had used some federal funds to kind of be able to continue the school, but regrettably those funds are now exhausted, and the accountant for the school indicated that the school would be insolvent this fall. So while we have been strong supporters of Midlands Arts Conservatory, their action demonstrated their commitment to putting kids first, even when it means closure. We are already working with the school and implementing our school closure protocol, but we do recommend that you accept the relinquishment of MAC's charter.
Okay. Before we proceed, we need a motion.
I move that we accept the relinquishment of Max charter as requested.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any board
Mr.
discussion?
Chairman?
Yes.
Could
Yes,
whoever is giving a motion, could they identify themselves? Obviously, I know Dr. Pope did the second on that. Who did the initial motion?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
Those little things when we can't see each other that make a difference. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do any board members have any questions or comments? I've got one, John or Chris, given that they are relinquishing this and it'll be effective in a few weeks, has staff already mapped out how they would do their closeout procedures? Do we foresee any roadblocks or hiccups in doing this?
Mr. Chairman, this is John R. No, sir, we don't. In fact, we've already had a meeting with the vice chair who stepped in as the chair of their board, stepped back. And I would take just a moment to express publicly our sincerest appreciation for Mr. Sonny Perry, who's the vice chair. He was just elected back in the spring and then was put as vice chair. They've been very collaborative with us. We've already met, gone over the school closure protocol. On Monday of this week, a team of us went and toured Mac's facility as well as a storage facility. We've been in communication with their accountant, who is Melissa Kitty with Veris. So things are clipping along. We anticipate that we will have all of that wrapped up by August 1.
Okay, now you mentioned an important word. You said facility. I assume that they are leasing. Has the landlord been notified of the school boards of their action and the potential action here today?
Mr. Chairman, it's John R. again. Yes, sir. They have. Both the school has notified, and Michael Tom and I had a one-on-one conversation with the landlord. He expressed if we needed their ability, his okay with kind of an extra month lease as Mac's lease ends June 30th. Mac currently believes they will be able to get their furniture and belongings to their storage facility by June 30th. But if not, we do have the flexibility of extending that. And again, he has been notified.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from any other board members? Okay, having none, I'll call the motion to accept staff recommendation to accept the charter the relinquishment of the charter by Midlands Arts Conservatory. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Farmer, Bridges Preparatory School Amendment.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Payne, members of the board, and
Good
Superintendent
morning.
Daly.
Good morning.
I do want to preface today's amendment summaries to make you aware that both of the schools today, they did initiate the amendment process in early March. And if you recall, our April and May board meetings were very dense. So therefore, today is the first opportunity we've had for the request to be presented. Chief Operations Officer Caroline Lovell joins us today from Bridges Preparatory School for their amendment. Bridges 2023 renewal plan included a 10-year facilities and infrastructure goal with a strategic timeline to keep up with its growing enrollment demands and extensive wait list. The school requests to move forward with its planned construction phases to include competition fields, a gymnasium, additional parking, a secondary entrance and exit, a cafeteria, and a future K-2 building. On the 135th day of this school year, the school enrolled 1,258 kindergarten through 12th grade students and projects an enrollment of 1,392 students in the 23-24 school year. Current USDA funding is allocated to the competition gym and additional career and technology educational wings for classes, and athletic fields will be constructed on 38 acres of land already purchased by the school. The school will utilize a portion of its fund balance and is soliciting community partners and corporate sponsors for its capital campaign drive to help fund the competition fields. Having home fields on site will alleviate the necessity of renting fields and reduce travel costs for sports. For the next facilities and infrastructure phase in years 2 through 4, which include the K-2 building and community cafeteria, Bridges will look to secure an additional USDA loan. You have the district financial analysis included in the report and the school's financial documents in the amendment attachments. Staff recommends approval of Bridges facilities and infrastructure amendment. Thank you.
All right, we need a motion to proceed.
This is Kip. I make the motion that we accept the Bridges Preparatory School amendment as explained.
This is Stephen with second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Well, so that I stay true to form, I do have a few questions. Let me, Ms. Lovell, just a couple of quick. I noticed the bulk of the majority of your students are in the lower schools, lower grade schools. When you get up into 8th through 12th, it drops off pretty good. Going from about 115 or so down to 92. Is it the school that is limiting the number of students in the high school, or are you just not getting requests for high school seats?
Well, I think it's a somewhat natural process, because when we started the school, we started up to 6th grade. Those first classes only had 2 classes in those, so we were around 46 students. But we are growing those now. We have added last year. We added to our middle school. This year, we're projecting adding an additional kindergarten class and a 9th grade class. So that's 23 to 24 students in each of those grades. So it's a natural process that next year we will be at 96 for 12th grade is our open seats. We have 22 seats currently available. We received 978 applications overall for our open enrollment process, and we still have a wait list of 642 students that would like to apply. Obviously, most of those are in the younger grades, but we still do have some wait list on our 9th grade. We still have 42 seats that we cannot fill, and we have 120 slated for our 9th, 10th, and 11th grades. So our projection is that that's going to fill itself as we grow our elementary and our middle school. And if we had the room, we could add for our 6th grade alone, we have 99 on the wait list, and our 7th grade is 100. So we could add several more sections if we had the room, but we don't have the room, and we don't want to do a disservice to the students that we currently have in the school.
Okay. Now I'm looking at your balance sheet. You've got about $7.2 million in current assets, and that's basically between various checking accounts, but it's about 17% of your overall assets, your long-term and short-term. Of that $7 million, do you foresee spending any of that regarding the construction of these facilities, or do you just normally keep that on hand?
Well, we did just pay cash for the property because it was kind of, it's hard to secure land in Beaufort County. It's a growing area, and we were given the opportunity for, the price. Obviously, we've been watching it over the years, and we're in a position where we were able to secure that, and we have the need for it. So we did pay cash for that property. Ultimately, we do not want to. We'd like to have a healthy reserve, but we also want to make sure that we keep part of that healthy reserve to go to students. Of course, that's a board decision. That's not a decision that I can say one way or the other. But we there's that fine balance, as we've talked before, we've worked on financials before, Mr. Payne. There's a fine balance between having a healthy reserve and also servicing your students and also leading to your growth. So I think that'll be a to be determined, depending on how long it will take us to secure financing to move forward with buildings and fields. I foresee some of that fund will have to go to the things that we're working on now, which are tree and topos and surveys and wetlands and things. All that kind of adds up. So those were funds that will probably have to come out of that reserve.
Okay.
With such secure funding.
Okay, so basically you're holding cash in reserve in anticipation of all of the infrastructure and whatever costs that are associated with the development of this land.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought that was the answer, but I wanted to ask the question.
Sorry. There's no roundabout answer.
I said I thought that was the answer, but I wanted to ask the question. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Are there any questions from any other board members? All right, having none, we have a motion to accept the Bridges Preparatory School Amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Congratulations. All right, next up is Spartanburg Preparatory School Amendment. Ms. Farmer?
Yes, we have two amendment requests for Spartanburg Preparatory School this morning. Joining us on the call are Dr. Whitmire, middle and high school principal, and Ms. Holmes, Spartanburg Prep's elementary school principal. Once again, I remind you that Dr. Whitmire reached out to district staff on March 5th regarding both amendment requests because if approved today, will take effect in the upcoming 2023-24 school year. The school's board requests approval to add a 4-year-old kindergarten or 4K through a partnership with First Steps and also wishes to discontinue serving high school beginning in the 23-24 school year. District staff supports both requests. Spartanburg Prep states that for several years, parents have requested a 4K program, and the school believes that serving 4K will allow a greater outreach in the community and provide rich academic support at an earlier age for some of the most vulnerable populations. The school conducted a survey of current families to gauge interest in the potential addition of a 4K program, and the survey revealed more interest than available seats. 4K First Steps offers free full-day 4-year-old kindergarten to qualifying children in South Carolina and provides a one-time $15,000 material and supplies grant. Spartanburg Prep's initial approval letter from First Steps is included in the amendment attachments. If the amendment is approved today, a contract between the school and First Steps will be issued when school begins. The second amendment request, Spartanburg Prep's board also requests a pause in serving students in grades 9 through 12 beginning in the 23-24 school year due to unsustainability. On the 135th day of this school year, the school served 11 ninth grade students and 1 10th grade student. Parents of 8th through 10th grade students have been made aware of the decision to discontinue serving high school pending PCSD board approval, and the school has yet to receive any negative feedback from families. The school projects steady enrollment gains while focusing on serving students in grades 4K through 8. You have the district financial analysis included in the report and the school's financial documents in the amendment attachments. District staff recommends approval of both of Spartanburg Preparatory School's amendment requests. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Farmer. I need a motion to proceed.
This is Teresa Pope. I move that we accept the staff's recommendation for approval of both amendments.
Second, if you can hear me, this is Cindy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, I've had technical difficulties beyond my capabilities. Interpret that as you will.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. So we have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on Spartanburg Preparatory School Amendment. Is there any board discussion or questions?
I had a question. This is Jonathan.
Okay.
How long has Spartanburg Prep been serving high school students?
Good morning. This is Dr. Whitmire. How are you all? We started, our very first year was in 2021.
I see. Okay. So so you had 1 year and you realized that the number of students who had enrolled was not what you had anticipated.
We just finished our second year.
Oh, I see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Well, I was just going to make a comment. I appreciate the leadership at Spartanburg Preparatory School for one, recognizing this issue, two, not putting a lot of good money into a high school that at this point doesn't look like it's feasible. Hopefully in the future it will be, but at this point it's not. So I commend them for unfortunately they have to make a hard decision here, but in doing so, they're going to save the rest of their school so that they can educate children in that area. So I commend you for. Unfortunately, we have to make hard decisions sometimes, and you're doing it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick question, and I was dealing with these technical things, so I might not have heard everything, but how do the parents of the current cohort through the 8th grade, especially the middle school parents, where do they feel comfortable about where their children will transition to? Is that kind of an organically not difficult, goal to achieve with the schools that are there?
Yes, ma'am, it is. They're actually very accustomed to going to their district schools or one of the other charter schools in the county anyway. So it wasn't very difficult at all.
Oh,
we
good.
Talked to some of the other charter schools as well, just to make sure there was some partnerships and some pipelines as well.
Great news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments? Having none, I'll call the motion to accept staff recommendation on the Spartanburg Preparatory School amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, you said amendment, but we meant amendments, correct?
Excuse me. Yes, I was reading the agenda, amendments plural.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
All right. Michael Tom, come on up.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll be reading through the April report and then I'll read through the May. You want me to do them separately and vote on each? Is that probably the best way?
Yes, sir, individually.
Gotcha. Okay. For the month of April 30th, 2023, after 10 months of operations, we expect 17% of the budget to be remaining. We're currently at 21%, so a little ahead of the game there. The first report is district, including all school payments and revenues. Revenues to date, April 131,522,071. Expenditures 131,500,754 for a net difference of 21,317. The next report is district office only. You'll see total revenues for the month of April 312,485 brings us to 3,044,923. Total expenditures for month of April are 289,800 for a total expenditures of 2,909,159. Net change in fund balance at April would be 135,764. And if we were to end the year there, it would be 1,999,199. Next report is district office only by division. Total leadership costs 1,227,553. Sponsor performance 401,953. Support and implementation 616,063, and then financial services and operations 663,591 for again total 2,909,159 or 21% remaining. Mr. Chairman, that completes my report for April 2023.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept the April financial report?
This
Mr.
is
Chairman.
Jonathan. Motion to approve.
Mr. Randy, second.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for Michael on the April 2023 financial report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I always
Cindy?
have the questions about what I'll call the red category questions. For example, I know these are small things, but I just want to understand them. Other services under leadership, you know, just the red number is pretty strong there. And I know these are in some ways small things, but I just want to understand those things.
Yeah, we were actually originally going to do a budget amendment, but with Nick putting in that new budget prep program through Smart Fusion, it's important that he has the history and the budget amounts in the Smart Fusion accounts as he rolls through the next year in creating the 24 budget. So again, these are small amounts within division, but it's a good that he'll have that history in the accounting system as he moves through for next year.
Okay, that's a very smart answer. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Michael on the April financial report? All right, then I'll call the motion to accept the April 2023 financial report. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. All right, May 2023 financial report, Michael.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Neely. After 11 months of operations, we expect only 8% of the budget remaining. We're currently at 13% for May 2023. The first report is district office and school revenues and expenditures together. Total revenue 145,530, 432, and total expenditures of 145, 479, 201, or a net difference of 51,231. Next report is district office expenditures and revenue only. Total revenues for the month of May 321, 303. Total revenues year to date for May 3,366, 226. Total expenditures for May 300,000, 330. And again, total year-to-date expenditures, 3,209,489 for a net change in fund balance of 156,737. And if we were to end the year there in May, we'd be at 2,020,172. Next report is division only. Total leadership, 1,353,039. Sponsor performance, 444,322. Support and implementation, 694,144. And then financial services and operations, 717,984. For the total of 3,209,489, or 13% of the budget remaining. I did include the net change in fund balance, and you should have a slide on that projects our fund balance through June 30th, projecting next month's activity. So if we were to end the year in June right now, it looks like we'd be at 2,205,406.92 again, but that's just a projection for our activity for the month of June next month. Next report lists our district office, state revenues for EIA. Total for the year we're at right now at May is 186,743, 772.44. You can flip back to that one real quick so they can see that. Again, that's the projected fund balance. If we were to end the year projecting out through June 30th, we'd be at 2,205,406. We should be around that area because our June expenditures and revenue are pretty much consecutive throughout the year. And then the last report, flip by the next one, Josh. Again, that's the district for State Department. And then the last report is the listing of funding streams for EIA, which recaps that. Again, 186, 743, 772.44 at that point in May. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report for May 2023.
All right, thank you, Michael. Need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy. I'll second Cindy's motion.
All right, we've got a motion to accept and a second, the May 2023 financial report. Are there any questions for Michael? All right, having none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next up, Nick, we've got second reading of the 2023-2024 fiscal budget for the district.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board. Josh, if you can go to the next slide, please. So this reading takes into consideration the following conditions for projecting revenue: the final version of the state budget, adding 4 schools to our portfolio, and then consolidation of EIA revenues into the state aid to classrooms line. We are forecasting total state revenue of 201.8 million. And that takes into consideration the state aid to classrooms, the additional funding for Palmetto Excel as a separate line item, and then our EIA revenues. So for the expenditure side, we're focused on 3 priorities: a 3% cost of living raise, restructuring our departments to provide additional support, and then planning for the expiring COVID funding. So these are the expenditures broken out by the different cost objectives. You can see we have salaries, benefits, purchase services, property services, travel, supplies, and then other objects, for a total expenditures projecting of $4,071,000. And on this slide, we're comparing our revenue projections versus our expenditures. And you can see we have a balanced budget. So that concludes my presentation of the second reading of the budget. So at this moment, I ask that the board approves the second reading.
All right, thank you. To move forward, we need a motion on the second reading of the budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept this recommendation for the second reading of the budget.
Teresa Pope.
Is that Cindy? Okay, so we've got a motion from Cindy and a second from Dr. Pope. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a motion to accept second reading of the district's 2023-2024 fiscal budget. Are there any questions for for Nick at this time? I've actually have a few, but I know a couple of board members are tight on time today. I'm going to wait the third reading to ask a few questions. So I'll reserve that until next week. Are there any others? All right. So I'll call the motion or the vote on the motion to accept second reading of the Public Charter School District's 2023-2024 fiscal budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
All right. Next item up, item H, is board elections. Thankfully, we've got a few board members. Dr. Strickland, have you been here a year yet, or did you come in the middle of this year?
1 year.
All right, it's your first anniversary, and Mr. Gilchrist, we appreciate you being here, and we look forward to working with you more. This is the time of year that the board elects their chair, their vice chair, and their secretary. I don't know that there's any special formula why we choose June. It's been that way since I've been here, so I've just tried to keep it going forward. This past year, I think we've been very successful financially, academically, organizationally, legislatively, any way that you can slice or dice this district. We are much better off than we were last year, and we are much better off than we were 3 or 4 years ago. We have evaluated the superintendent, which actually is a reflection on his staff as well. They've received high marks, and I'm glad that we're moving in the right direction. Having said that, we need to elect for the next 12 months a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. Now, I'll go ahead and say that I knew when Randy stepped in these shoes from Kathleen last year that they were pretty big shoes to fill because she cast a large shadow, but Randy's done, in my opinion, admirably well, and I would like to nominate him to be the secretary for the next 12 months going into June of 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
All right. So I'd like to do these. That's Thank you, Mr.
Third that
Gilchrist.
motion. I third that motion.
Okay. I would like to handle these individually instead of a group. So what we would need, we've got a motion to nominate Randy to be secretary for another year. I'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Unopposed. All right. Next, we'll have the vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, that's Randy. It's been a pleasure to serve with you and Cindy as on this board, and so I would like to make a motion to have Cindy Mosteller complete another term, 1-year term as vice chairman for the Board of Trustees.
All right. Are there any other nominations? All right. Do we have a second on Cindy Mosteller being vice chair again for the next 12 months going into
Second.
June of 2024?
Second.
All right. So we've got a motion and a second. Asking one more time, are there any other nominations? Okay, having none, I will call the vote. All in favor of Cindy Mosteller being vice chair of the Board of Trustees from June of 23 to June of 24, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? None opposed. All right. And lastly, we need a nomination for chair.
Lastly, and mostly not leastly, I want to just jump in here and make first many thanks for the chairman that we have in John Payne. And having lived through now 2 chairmen, I can tell you that it is a vast difference and just an outstanding opportunity for all of us. I'm sure the staff, everyone, Chris, the board, to work under you, Mr. Chairman, and to see your common sense, your conviction, your vision. It's just your character. It is a wonderful, wonderful privilege to work with you and be a part of this effort, all of us together, which the emphasis on together, which we all are. It's a beautiful thing. So with that being said, and that being true, I would like to put in place the nomination of John Payne for continuation as chairman of the South Carolina Public Charter School District.
All right. Are there any other nominations? All right. We need a second.
This is Kip. I'll second.
All right. Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. And Cindy, I appreciate your kind words. I do disagree a little bit. Nobody works under me. We all walk hand in hand, side by side. Nobody works under anybody here.
That's really true.
Everybody steps in and does what they need to do. Sometimes we do things that aren't our job description, but we do it all with the goal in mind of advancing this district, and in doing so, we advance educational opportunity for kids all across this state. But I do appreciate your kind words.
Yes.
Having a motion and a second, I will call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Unopposed. And thank you for your confidence. All right, next is informational items. John R. Payne again, pre-opening conditions status report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you all recall, back on April 20th, you approved the charter for Carolus Online Academy, which would be a K-12 online virtual school that would be part of our portfolio, serving grades K through 12 and enrolling about 900 students. Just a few weeks ago, a week or two ago, the State Department of Education at Carolus and our request gave permission for Carolus to waive its planning year and allow the school to open here in just a couple of months for the 23-24 school year. Due to time constraints related to a fast track opening that's planned for August 21st, Carolus is unable to meet the full K-12, but does want to begin with K through 8, enrolling approximately 480 students. After review, discussions with the board as well as with K-12, their EMO partner, the district supports this recommendation for Carolus to proceed in year 0 with K-8 and serve 480, and then for its year 1, which will be 24-25, to matriculate to have the full K through 12. Since they're in year 0, we're just presenting this as an informational item to you, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Okay, as this is informational only, there's no motion needed. Are there any questions from the board for John?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question, which I appreciate what John Payne is saying. Could you just fill that in a little more? Because this is kind of a new thing for me to see a school that's just been authorized change kind of this much. I mean, you feel like the quality governance is there and the numbers are there, or can you just say a little more about this?
Sure. Yes, ma'am. So we've already had several meetings with the school leadership and their K-12, their EMO partner. They feel very comfortable, and we agree that their ability to get K through 8 students is a very viable and doable. We've had discussions around to ensure that they have the fiscal ability, and certainly working with K-12, we believe they have that. They have a much more robust and planned out program for K through 8. So we do believe they will be successful in year 1. They're certainly committed to it. We've already had a meeting with the school and its EMO partner K-12 and have provided them with the pre-opening conditions, but condensed it basically into 2 months. And as a result of that, they're already working on those pre-opening conditions, and we don't have any concern at this point that they will be able to fulfill those pre-opening conditions. So we think it's a wise move moving into that year 0 fast track to do K through 8, and then add on 9 through 12 for year 1, which would be the 24-25 school year. Ms. Mosteller, does that answer your
Yes,
question?
and John, do you feel like the fast track which would be much harder in a non-virtual school, obviously? So that's the speed. This is kind of above the clouds without a lot of resistance to it, I guess. You know.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And we certainly agree with that.
Okay, and so that's really what is, it's the nature of this, not beast, but one, wonderful opportunity that allows this kind of speed acceleration to occur. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other questions for John? Okay, having none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Chris?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and members of the public who are with us today. First of all, I would just want to do a shout out to the staff. There's a lot of work going on right now. There's a lot of issues that the staff is having to work on that are difficult and challenging. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that, we're there for the staff. We're here to support you in all this work. I know these can be somewhat trying times when we're dealing with schools that need to close and so forth. But we're always centered on putting kids first through all of this. And so I just wanted to thank the staff for that. Congratulations to our board officers. Look forward to working with you all and the members of the board. Dr. Strickland, it was great seeing you at SCASA this week. Always good to see you. You don't know a stranger there, I tell you. I really appreciate your collaboration with that organization, and we had good representation there from Jing Tong, with Susan, and with Wendy, so it was great to be with them. We have 2 new members of our charter team. Bridget Cuneo is our new charter development manager, working with Kristen over in the authorizing department. And then Brad Henry is going to be our chief of external affairs and community engagement. And he's going to be working on Emily's team. And so we're very excited about having these two teammates as we continue to expand our support for our schools and the greater charter community here in the state of South Carolina. I want to do a reminder that we will have to have another board meeting virtually. It will be about a 10-minute meeting next Thursday at 10 o'clock for the purpose of the third reading. Excited to have this budget approved. Very excited that the governor and everyone supported Palmetto Excel. That was a big plus that we were able to get that in the budget and support that innovative adult charter school. So very excited about Palmetto Excel and the fact the General Assembly and the governor and them were willing to support them. The last thing I have is just a statement. It's actually a post that I put on LinkedIn this morning, but kind of reflects my thoughts on kind of where we are right now. The title is Ethics, Accountability, and Love for Our Children's Future. When it comes to education, we are faced with a profound question of ethics, accountability, and love. As responsible educators and administrators, we must hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards and prioritize the well-being of our children. Accountability lies at the heart of our commitment to our students. It is our duty to ensure that every child receives the education they deserve, one that prepares them for a fulfilling and successful future. This means not merely passing them through the system, but guiding them towards mastery, proficiency, and personal growth. However, accountability alone is not enough. We must infuse our educational institutions with love and compassion. Our children are not objects on a conveyor belt. They are unique individuals deserving of care, support, and respect. By cultivating an environment of love, we create a space where children can thrive emotionally, intellectually, and socially. To truly serve our children, we must hold ourselves accountable for their holistic development. This requires fostering an ethical framework that puts their well-being first, prioritizing their growth as productive citizens and compassionate human beings. Let us pledge to approach education with integrity, transparency, and a deep sense of love for our students. By doing so, we can create a nurturing educational environment that instills values, fosters critical thinking, and guides our children towards a brighter future. Together, we can build a society where ethics, accountability, and love form the very foundation of education, empowering our children to become the best versions of themselves. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my brief statement.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Mr.
Are
Chairman.
there any other? Yeah, well, I was going to ask if the board has any other comments before we adjourn.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to comment on what he just said, which was beautiful and strong. And I am increasingly aware in the culture, the importance of parents and the importance of including the nomenclature of parents in our speaking and writing, because that is really at the heart of the charter school movement. Who is making that choice are parents. And so in my mind, as we articulate ourselves and our vision, I just want to say how critical and foundational and existential it is that we communicate, I think, what we already do believe, the critical importance of parents in the education of their children and their rights in the education of their children. I just think it's a wonderful theme, and it's true, and it's instinctive, and it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? All right, having none, and we've completed our agenda, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.